Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jason Strudwick. We've got Gord Miller live from Paris later in the hour. Gord had up close and personal, basically front row seats to see beach volleyball today. I feel like he paid someone off with CBC as well because he got on TV. You see Gord got a TV shot earlier today. Yeah, they spanned the crowd. There was Gord. And Gord's a pretty big shooter in the TV world, so he probably knew who to call and contact. So I'm going to be in there, get the camera on me. But, Gord's coming up in about a half an hour to kind of set the scene on Paris. And yesterday we were talking in depth about our good friend Jamie Noodles McLennan because, Noodles, I guess, I remember him now having water bottles at Free Agent Frenzy. I remember that now. I don't know why I didn't take one, but he was offering them out. He's a man of the people. And Frankie Corrado loves that water bottle, and he brings it into work every day. And he showed it on TV. It had the TSN logo, which was cool. Then we started talking about Noodles, and I think you were the first one to mention this, Struddy, and I had never thought of it before, but I've known Noodles for 13 years now. I've never seen him drink water, pure water. It's always flavored or something like that. And you've known him longer than I have, and you said you've never seen him drink water. Like maybe vodka waters or something, but not pure water.
No, he even brushes his teeth with Coke or something like that. He refuses to put water, H2O, in his mouth. I don't know how he made it as far as he did.
Right. So that was a claim that you made yesterday, and I agreed with. I think you also said it was a borderline miracle he had a great career without any athletic ability whatsoever.
I think we all joined. I think that was a collaborative.
Maybe collectively everyone said that. But I think it's perfect timing, and I think it's probably well worthy of Noodles joining us now. And we're going to have to give him the floor because you're going to have to basically answer for all of those questions that we had for you yesterday. Go ahead. Have you ever had water? Are you an athletic in any regard? Break this down for us.
First of all, how do I respond? Here is my flavored water right now. I drink so many bottles of water a day, at least 8. Do you think that I just I hate just drinking plain water, so I juice it up. This is Skittle flavored, blue raspberry. That's it. And as far as athletic ability, what the hell do you want me to say? I couldn't, it was zero athlete in me, but I just happened to make the NHL. What's so funny is, every time you guys, it's a lull with Struddy, it's a lull, probably a dull segment or something. Hey, let's take some shots at Noodles. Hey, remember when he, in Vegas, he went on a date on a guy's trip, all of these things.
That's right.
I'm like, listen, I drink water all the time. I don't like swimming in it. I don't like any of that type of stuff. And yes, limited athletic ability, but I found a way to stay in the NHL for that I guess,
a long
that
time,
long.
man.
But here's your blue water for today. I'm drinking it, and I do brush my teeth with water. I was waiting for you to say, he eats mustard sandwiches, that's why his teeth are so yellow. I'm like, my God, I'm not even coming on.
Get torched.
So let's say this. At your peak of your athleticism, Noodles, what sport in the Olympics, Summer Olympics, would you have competed at? What would you say, this is what I could have done? Because today I was watching the speed wall climbing.
Yeah,
and there's no way you're doing that one with your length of upper body strength. So where were you going? Where are you taking us?
I want to say beach volleyball, but you saw me do that. You saw me do that in L.A. I will say that beach volleyball. No wonder Gord's right in the front row. There were some really attractive people on both sides of the spectrum there. It is impressive. I was dying yesterday listening to you guys. I didn't watch the live show, but I was the porta potty conversation, because it is when. If you would have brought me on like a normal person, you would have said, "How's your summer going, Noodles?" I was going to say, just came from the beach, took a dump there, and just went in the water. I was, going to have a joke about that.
Right.
Instead, we had to talk about water and
water consumption, man.
Yeah.
It's because John Daly's famous for that. He's on the record saying he doesn't drink water. He exclusively drinks Diet Coke.
Yeah,
he apparently drinks 20 Diet Cokes a day or something.
20.
Like that. Yeah, it's something wild. It's
imagine
right
his
off
gut?
That's all it is Diet Coke. Like he
Yeah.
will not drink water. He does not. He will not do it. And we referenced Al Michaels yesterday. Will not eat vegetables. And I don't recall seeing you, Noodles, with like just a pure water bottle before.
I do, and you know what? Frankie brought in the water bottle. That's a company that I'm passionate about it. But it's funny because even when I use them, I just put flavoring in it because I like flavored water. Like,
right.
Is there anybody who just loves water? Like, just
yes. Humans.
Who?
Humans
no, not
like
human.
it.
Oh, I like a cold glass of water after I've come out. Like Like when I played hockey, I had water in my water bottle.
Right.
I'd have water on the bench. I didn't have Diet Coke on the bench or anything.
Yeah.
So, I did like water when I was thirsty, but I constantly drink water, like all day long. For some reason, I have a bottle going all the time. That's just how I've always been. So I put a little flavoring in it, and you move on.
Okay.
But let's call it what it is, Noodles. It's not flavored water. You know what that's called?
What?
Juice. You're drinking juice.
I'm not drinking
That's what
juice.
it is.
I'm drinking
Yes, it
water
is.
with flavoring in it.
Yeah,
because
juice.
if flavoring was not there, it would be water.
Are there
that's
calories?
Definition.
Are there any
Zero
calories?
calories.
Zero calories. Okay,
Zero
then that's water.
calories.
It's still
in it.
juice,
That
though.
counts.
That's what
No,
juice is.
It might as well just be blue. What is that? Food coloring. Blue food coloring
Yes.
with a little touch. Like, what would it be? Water? Let me ask you this, Struddy. Do you have water with lemon in it? Do you have lemon in it, or is it just water?
No, I'll just drink straight up. Like I try to just pound a couple big things of water a day. Like
Right.
not to get too personal, but I like to try to make sure my pee is clear, right? And I'm assuming yours is coming out like like what are those things
Syrup?
called? Yeah,
Rainbow colored.
yeah. What are those
Maple.
unicorns? That little My Little Pony. It looks like a My Little Pony's.
My
peeing
Little
out there.
Pony urine. No. Have you ever, though, I will say this, have you ever had a tough night where the next day it is just like it's syrup coming? You've got
dude.
no fluids in
No.
you.
It's like
None.
Dijon
Nothing.
mustard. It's so
It is.
disgusting.
The worst feeling because you don't
Yeah.
want to drink it and you can't get it out. Like you're
Yeah.
just like
Awful.
This is going to be a long day, a long
is
day
awful.
for everyone.
I
to
was
recover.
dying yesterday about the porta potty because I text Hayes and O on the weekend. So I went down to New York and was golfing in a charity tournament. Golfing is a loose term. I sat in the cart and just hung out. But my partner was Hanrahan from Slapshot, like the actual goaltender.
Awesome.
Hanrahan. But his name's Chris, awesome guy. He's a voice actor. He's been in the business 60 years. So I didn't Google him after, but I think he's probably late 70s type of thing. And I was laughing about the porta potty because he was about to hit and he goes, I got to go use the facilities. So I watched him walk over to a porta potty, and then we moved on to the next hole, and he caught up, and he goes, I almost didn't make it out of there. Can you imagine? It was 35 degrees in New York.
Oh.
The porta potty had just been melting in the middle of that golf course. And he said somehow, like the door, there was like a latch that didn't. And he said there was no
nightmare fuel.
ventilation. And he said, he goes, I almost passed out. Like he said, I almost didn't. He goes, I'm 70-some years old. He goes, he almost packed it in. Hanrahan almost packed it in because of a porta potty on a New York golf course.
Can you imagine that? Like WABC in New York's doing interviews, and there's Noodles talking about Hanrahan dying in the porta potty.
Passed away. He disappeared on the course,
Yeah.
and we found him in the porta potty.
Here's former Islander Jamie McLennan on Hanrahan dying at this golf tournament in a porta potty.
He said the smell in there was ridiculous. Like he said, it was trapped. There was no airflow.
Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, my
and the
God.
heat, not that, like, listen, if you're in Antarctica, it's not much better. But
Yeah.
if it's cooking in there,
The heat makes a difference.
It's
Let's
really-
be honest. When it's
really
cold, a porta potty,
awful.
it contains it.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you get that heat and there's no ventilation in there. That is a pressure curve. You got to go in there. I can
Yeah.
barely get things going when I'm in there. I'm so nervous.
It is
and then,
awful.
Then what happens is when people are behind me, so I get a little bit of stage fright sometimes. And so I faked it. I faked peeing at a urinal before because guys are around me. I had a guy at one of the Oilers game. He put your hand on my shoulder. And he's like, hey, man, what the Oilers going to do tonight? I couldn't pee, but I pretended. I went through the whole process of peeing. I flushed. I gave it the shake, washed my hands. Not a drop came out. Then I had to walk to another bathroom. Yeah. And I was like, what's your problem? Like, I couldn't do it. The guy was over my shoulder. So now I get really anxiety filled when I'm trying to go into a urinal. A lot of people
that's
around.
That's a tough move. Touching somebody with
hand
their
on shoulder grab.
Yeah, the
hand on shoulder
grab.
when I'm peeing. I'm like, you want
that's
to hang
a boundary
on to?
that you just are not allowed to pass.
I think
man.
you should never. There should be a no touching rule.
Yes.
In bathrooms. Period.
Universal, regardless of who you are, where you are.
Yeah.
Any relationship.
My biggest fear, while we're stuck on this, my biggest fear is being in an airport bathroom. You have your bag sitting there and you're midstream. And somebody runs away
Someone
with
jacks your bag.
Right.
I think the same thing all the time.
I think that all the time. I hide my bag kind of against a wall, and I'm kind of one eye on it because if you're midstream, like, what do you do if a guy just grabs it and runs? Like, you're
toast, man. And if you get your passport in there or something too, you're like, yeah,
it's the worst.
I have thought the same thing, man. It's tough to trust people in a scenario like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that we cleared all this up.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It's good to have you on. I'm sure you guys saw. I'd like to get into this because Struddy, you and I hadn't talked about it yesterday. The Athletic, they reveal their rankings every year. They've been doing it for 9 years. Where it's fans. It's not writers with the Athletic. It's not former players or anything like that. It's fan responses. So you take that with a grain of salt. But it's based on 6 different categories: roster building, cap management, drafting and developing, trading, free agency, and vision. So how does each respective fan base feel in terms of the confidence of their respective front office? To no one's surprise, Florida's at number 1. Last year they were 7. Right, they probably should be. They won the Cup. Bill Zito and the whole crew down there is doing an incredible job. Dallas is 2. Tampa's 3. Okay, I don't really have any gripes with that, considering recent history with those 3 teams. But what I found surprising, and I talked extensively about this, the Leafs at 30 to me is absurd. I understand why Leaf fans aren't happy. They're 30 at Noodles. They rank 30th, the Maple Leafs front office. Come on, put them in the middle of the pack for sure. They got to still prove a lot. It's they haven't been overly bold, but they've been a playoff team for 8 years. 5
or 6 100-point seasons?
Yes.
So it's like you're. That's just, that's an angry fan base pissed off on the results of the playoffs. But you've got to be you're not being measured. Right. I agree. If you would have said, I'm shocked. I didn't see that. But
they were 30th on this rank. Here's one that's even maybe more surprising, although I do think that's absurd that the Leafs are 30. The Oilers were 25th on this list. How do you explain that? Now, I get it. Maybe is that a Stan Bowman reaction? They don't like that Stan Bowman got hired.
People, all of that. But
possibly. But they're Game 7 of a Cup final, and Oiler fans don't have faith in Jeff Jackson and Bowman and previously Holland. What else were they supposed to do with this team?
Yeah. If you just look at the July 1st, that alone, put everything else apart. That July 1st he had was Jeff Jackson. It was incredible. The talent they added, on the tickets they paid, on the length of contracts, they did a really good job. Now, if, let's say, Leon Draisaitl signs before the end of August, I wonder how much that would change, because I think there is a nervous energy in the city for Oilers fans about what happens with Leon. I happen to believe it gets done. It's a matter of time. But if that gets done, I think there's a parade planned the next day for this management group.
Yeah, I mean, I think alone, Bryan, I saw you on SportsCenter the other day or whatever saying Edmonton lost in Game 7, and you think they're a better team.
On paper, I do.
On paper,
yeah.
I think their moves were shrewd at the free agency. I think they still got to figure out. I think Evander Kane all of a sudden gets the LTIR, and they'll figure out some cap, circumvention, all of that type of stuff. Everybody does it, but I think 25 is more just knee-jerk reaction to maybe some unsettling 2 things. It is the Stan Bowman hiring, which some people, I have a problem with it, not for Stan Bowman being hired, But the people that all of a sudden don't want to give other people second and third opportunities, isn't that what you're supposed to grow and help? And to me, Stan Bowman is probably going to shine a light, and the Oilers organization should be shining a light and moving forward, and for stuff like that to never happen again. So that's where I have a problem with that. But I also think the Draisaitl contract. I think it's the Bowman situation, that Draisaitl contract, that probably has some people angst. But that team is a very good team.
Yeah.
And the way they're constructed, alone on Zach Hyman's contract, they should be happy. Like with Ken Holland, and should be happy. Like RNH makes 5.1. Like
unbelievable deal. Yeah, I guess. Listen, this is the nature of Canadian markets, which I understand, and I don't think it's shocking. Like the Habs were in the top 10 because there's no expectation there.
None.
Right, it's nothing. None. It's just, hey, they tanked and they're bottoming out and they're putting some pieces together and high picks and a good farm system. So it's like, all right, great stuff. Like I don't know what.
Right.
Like by no means should it's not that I'm anti Montreal's front office. I think Jeff Gorton's a smart guy. The Hughes has done a good job. I think they've been very open and honest with their plan, and they've been patient, and that's a very difficult thing to do in a Canadian market. I think they've been appropriately patient, but they haven't really done anything, and I still don't think they're a competitive team. So for them to be that high on the list is a bit surprising to me. But it is the nature of, I think, the Canadian hockey fan, and we use Edmonton as an example. You could look at Hyman and say, what a deal. You should. Nugent Hopkins, what a deal. You should. Draisaitl still make an 8.5 for another year. That's probably the best contract in hockey. Yeah. But it will be more about, well, what about Darnell Nurse and his deal?
Yeah,
right.
Jack
what about
Campbell,
exactly. It's always you lean into the ones you got wrong. And listen, the Nurse deal doesn't look great. Let's call it what it is. It's not a good contract, but it's not like he's a horrendous player. He had his moments where it didn't go well for him during that playoff run. Clearly, he was ugly at times, but he's still in his mid-20s, and I think he's capable of settling in. Struddy, you can answer that. But I don't think it's a scenario where Darnell Nurse is just a complete write-off and can't help this team in any capacity, regardless of what his cap hit is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think, honestly, that they need, let's fast forward now to the trade deadline. I think they're trying to adjust that partnership of CC and Nurse. And I'm looking for a guy that can move the puck a little bit better than CC, maybe jump up in the place so Darnell can kind of get kind of the lift that Ekholm gets with Bouchard and vice versa. So I think that that's probably what we're looking at. Like the one guy I looked at was maybe Sean Walker. I know he signed somewhere else, so it's not going to happen. Yeah. But that'd be the type of relationship, like a little bit more of a puck mover and a little more guy that can really make a quick pass out of the zone and get out of their zone quicker. So, yeah, I think Darnell, the contract's not going anywhere. This is what he is, but I think when he plays a hard defensive game and he's intimidating, and we saw that from him, especially in previous playoff runs, he is a real force because he's so athletic and so gifted, talented.
Yeah. It just, I think you're right. Like you focus on and you can cherry pick certain things. Bryan, speak to why the Leafs at 30. Is it just the frustration of the band coming back for ninth year? Is that really what it is?
I think that is definitely a part of it. I mean, living in the city, Noodles, like it is something that has been consistent since they lost Game 7 to Boston. Like it's been nonstop. How do you do it again? How do you bring the core four back, or the big five with Morgan Riley? How do you do it? They all came out, Shanahan, Tree Living, and Pelly, and said everything's on the table. Well, they moved off Keefe, which that's a significant play. But beyond that, it's not that they didn't make shrewd moves. They did, but they didn't really do anything bold. Tanev's just a smart play. I think Ekman-Larsson's a smart play. It's not that those aren't like good plays, but it's not bold. It's not shaking anything up. So as a result, I think a lot of Leaf fans feel like it's a little bit stale. They were hoping that something drastic would change that could lead to kind of a Florida reaction a year ago to what happened with the Panthers. So that is a part of it. I also question, how the voting really works. People hate the Leafs. You either love the Leafs or you hate the Leafs. How many people are voting, hate voting? And, what was interesting was Pittsburgh was 29. That's Dubas. And the Islanders were 32. That's Lou. So it's almost like there's this Shanahan, Dubas, Trey Living, and Lou are all at the bottom of the list. And it's like Leaf fans are basically directing it at anyone that's been associated with the Leafs front office, or Leaf haters are like, hey, we'll just vote negatively, and maybe it skews the numbers a little bit. But I understand, again, I get why Leaf fans are not, brimming with confidence. but it's very acute, as we pointed out. It's about the playoffs. Like, it's not like this team's a train wreck and an embarrassment and finishing with 78 points and guys are doing stupid things and demanding trades and like that kind of stuff doesn't. They're a very well respected operation here that's going to run off, I think, a lot of wins and go back to the playoffs and try to do what they're going to try to do again for the 9th straight year. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're 30th in the league in terms of the way you operate.
No, and then, I mean, you can always look at the betting odds for the Stanley Cup, and they're always the top 5. So obviously they're a favorite for next year to get into the finals. Yes. But listen, I think they're a good team, but I've failed to see how it's just going to change by adding a couple good D for sure, but I'm not sure how they're going to be able to push deep into the playoffs. But when you compare them to Pittsburgh and the Islanders, Pittsburgh, I love Sidney Crosby, and those guys have done long good things. I just don't see how they're going to move. So I think that to me makes sense. You're like, well, we're not sure where we're going if I'm a Pittsburgh fan. Then the Islanders, it's a little bit the same. They've been kind of pretty stubborn. And I don't see a lot of breakout talent there. They got Barzell there for sure, but, we're going to play hockey. We're going to play bump and grind hockey, and I get that. And I do appreciate that in the playoffs, but you need someone that can break it open for you every now and then in the playoffs. Just look at the last few Stanley Cup champions. There are guys that can just take it to another level. So, Noodles, those two teams for me make sense, whether or not anyone associated with the Leafs. I don't really have faith in either team to really make the playoffs and or really push through in the playoffs.
I can see, like, alone, didn't Dubas get Kevin Hayes?
Yes, that was their main play of the offseason, was bringing in Kevin Hayes.
Kevin's north of 30.
Yep.
He's a nice player, but he's not a speedster.
No.
So to me, when I looked at that move, I was like, okay, I can circle a move, and that's probably recency bias, and go, don't like it. That's probably why. And I think we just laid out the Leafs is an outlier. I can make an argument that for the Islanders being there, it's just Lou is slow and steady. He always has that fourth line, although he's moved away from them finally. But that fourth line, they signed a 28-year deal. And Pierre Engvall's I was in New York on the island, and I was teeing off, and the guy Pierre Engvall took up golf the other day. And I'm like, yeah, he's on a 30-year deal here at $3 million a year.
Crazy.
It just, stuff like that, you can go, I can see it. So I can see Dubas. Based on, people didn't like the way he exited here, his moves in Pittsburgh, that they missed the playoffs. So, and I could see Lou. I just don't see the Leafs in there other than just frustration, but not literally what the team can do, especially the way they're constructed. So I'm just shocked too. I'm thinking in my mind, I haven't seen the list, but it's there's going to be somebody randomly at 7 or 8 where you're okay.
There are, and I'll tell you who it is. Utah was 4th.
Okay, so there you go.
Obviously, if you're a Utah, that's just everything's great. We got a team. Utah, obviously people in Arizona are we're not following this at all. We're not going to vote on it because if they did, they wouldn't be 4th. And it's not that their front office in Arizona isn't capable or a quality front office. It's that they had no real opportunity, and that team hasn't done anything forever. Anaheim's in the top half. San Jose was 13th. It's a very skewed list. A lot of it really doesn't make that much sense. And I'm wondering how many fans actually really voted. How many people in Anaheim during the summer are voting on Ducks content? Yeah, I can't imagine it's thousands. But it would be for the Canadian teams. And
I feel like Jonas and Myrtle made that up. I feel like those two made it up and started skewing the numbers to get people like us pissed off and go, what the hell?
Great content.
It might be, one of those fabricated, hey, we pulled 1,000 people and they had 14 people and it was their writers sitting around at, chess, or what do they do? It's not chess. What does Jonas do on the road?
It's trivia.
Right? Trivia.
Yeah, Jonas is a big trivia guy on the road.
Yeah,
and
so
I think in the summer as well. That could be it. And listen, the Leafs, we're a month away from them all kind of rolling through town. What are we, 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away from camps opening up?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the heavy lifting's done. I think that applies to pretty much every team in the league. There's still some guys out there that could sign a PTO. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. They announced a signing or two over the next month of kind of veteran guys who they're going to give a look at. But, this is pretty much going to be it. It's Craig Berube. You bring Tanev in, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I don't know this Hakanpää.
That Hakanpää, he's 6'8". Struddy, do you know him at all? He's the guy that when I made a joke. I sent a note to Frankie, I think, that night. When Dallas played the Leafs got up early. I think it was here in Toronto. And the Leafs got up like 3 or 4, like nothing or something. That Hakanpää should have taken his gear off in that first period. Because 2 of the plays, he just was like, okay, you go ahead. You guys can score here, and I'm just going to stand. One, he just stood right in front of the goalie, let it go through him. So the goalie's going, you're 6'7". You're going to have to block this, or I can't see anything. Yeah. I remember like chuckling. I sent Frankie a note saying, this guy should be wearing a Leaf jersey tonight. Well, he is wearing a Leaf jersey now.
Now he is.
But he's a big, mean body. I think he's a perfect 6'7". I don't know if you've seen him play, Struddy, but the other 2 are solid signings. Like Tanev is a warrior, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson turned the clock back. Like, he turned the clock back because what we remember of him in Vancouver's not the player. That's not the player I saw in the playoffs last year playing for Florida.
I agree.
He was hitting people in the playoffs. I never saw him do that in Arizona. Not even by accident. So I think that he's growing up and matured as a player, even though he's a little bit older. But Hakanpää, I think I've got a soft spot, obviously, for D-men near the bottom of their lineup. But he's a big guy, and he'll make other people pay, right? So maybe that's I kind of like that sign. They're going to have – but how does it fit together? I keep coming back to that. How does it all fit together? How does it look when you hit the ground running? And Craig, the nice thing I think is that Craig has a fresh set of eyes on all of it. So he'll or Berube, he'll be able to see, okay, this is what I think for not just the D, but the forward as well.
Yep, and that will be fresh. Is that it's nothing against Sheldon Keefe, but when you're a coach that's been in a market for a long time, after a while, it's not a bad idea to have a different voice, a different approach. And that's the way Berube will certainly operate. All right, Noodles, we'll let you go, but I'm glad you could join us here to clarify a few things, and we won't say another thing about you in the future.
Sorry.
That's it
well, I am an athlete at some point,
yes,
and yes, I do drink blue juice. It's not juice; it's just water,
juice.
Flavored water. You can actually see if you could Google it, flavored water. All of these different brands come up. It's not juice. Juice is orange juice, apple juice, peach, pineapple, all of that. This is blue raspberry Skittle flavor.
Okay.
That's
all right.
They fooled you into thinking that it's actually flavored water. It's juice.
It's the no-fat yogurt in Seinfeld.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. You've been fooled. What was I talking about? The monopoly yesterday? Remember what I was saying? What was it? Was it the porta potty industry that's bringing us down?
Yes.
It's the same way with the flavored water. They've fooled you, Noodles.
The water bottle industry. That's what they're doing.
They're probably in cahoots.
Yeah, they are. Just get the tap water, man. It's all good.
That's what I need. Well, tap water running from Wasaga Beach. We'll see how that unfolds.
Maybe avoid that. Maybe avoid Wasaga if you can. All right, Noodles. We'll do it again soon.
Guys. Chat later.
There he is. Jamie Noodles McLennan joining us here. All right, we're going to head to Paris next. Gord Miller's over there. He's watching the beach volleyball today. He's a beach volleyball guy. I love it. And Gord's been to a lot of Olympic games. We'll get him to set the scene. What's it like over there? Gord Miller coming up next. All right, so a lot of action over there in Paris. Naturally, the Olympic Games continue. The U.S. got past Serbia today. It was close, man. The States were chasing that game, but Steph Curry went off. Joel Embiid went off. The Americans are through to the gold medal game. They will face France, the host country, in the gold medal game on the men's side. Canadian action. There's a lot going on, a lot of medals daily, including beach volleyball, where the ladies are on their way to the gold medal match. They got past Switzerland today, right outside of the Eiffel Tower. And who did we see in the crowd today, Strutter? We saw Gord Miller. There was Gord, absolutely front and center, loving life. What a ticket. What a setup in Paris, right beside the Eiffel Tower. And he was nice enough to join us now, even though I'm sure he's probably engaging in the nightlife out there in Paris. Is that accurate, Gord? What's life like over there in Paris?
It is the city of lights, and I'm sitting on a bus just about to get back to the hotel. But look, beach volleyball has always had these spectacular venues. Bondi Beach in Sydney in 2000, Horse Guard Parade Ground in London in 2012, Copacabana Beach in Rio. But this is something else.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Next level. Yeah,
this
was
incredible.
Next level. I had those great seats for the first session down, first row, but tonight sat sort of further up, and I mean, you just look up from the court to the Eiffel Tower, and it is just astounding. The Olympics have been so good here; they've been so well run. The traffic hasn't been bad, the flow has been good, and the venues have been just great.
Well, it looks that way. I mean, from a TV standpoint, and you know TV as well as anyone, I mean, the backdrop can really do a lot to kind of make it pop, and the backdrop has been very significant. And you were there to see the Canadian women got through Switzerland. They lost the first set, but a lot of Canadians that seemed to be in the crowd. I mean, paint a scene for us, paint the picture for us. How electric was it to be there live?
It was really something, I mean, obviously, there was a lot of Canadians there, but there was a lot of Swiss fans too. And you had also, you had 8 different countries represented in the semifinals today. None of them the U.S. The U.S. won't win a medal in either men's or women's beach volleyball for the first time since it became an Olympic sport in '96. But just a raucous atmosphere. It's funny, when beach volleyball was first put in the Olympic program in '96, people thought, well, why? Like, only Americans are good at it. People aren't going to want to go. Like, how are you going to build a stadium on a beach? Well, it's one of the most popular venues now at the Olympics. It's just it's music playing constantly. The crowd's always engaged. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Like, I went to Skateboard Park on Tuesday, and it was the same thing there. I mean, just amazing crowds, energy, a lot of young people. It's really something.
When you look at the ladies and the way that they started their round robin in the volleyball and what they've come now, it was like it's almost been like 2 different events for them, or 2 different seasons almost, Gord. Like, their body language, it looks so much different. What do you see when you're up live with close, see the way that they're just interacting with each other and the way they're playing?
Well, it's funny because, the 2 of them played together in college at York from 2010 to 2014, but they've not played together. Wilkerson and Humana-Paredes hadn't played together until last year. And it's such a momentum sport. It's such a sport of swings, and but they just support each other during some of the downtimes in the match. And look, Wilkerson was a beast at the net. She was just unbelievable. And they beat the number 2 ranked team from the U.S. in the round of 16. Now they've beaten Switzerland. Now they'll have their hands full with this Brazilian team that won tonight. They're the number 1 ranked team in the world. But hey, listen, it'll be the first ever medal for Canada in women's beach volleyball. That's a huge accomplishment. That's a giant accomplishment right there. So, I mean, now they're playing with house money, right? They can go out tomorrow night. You win a gold medal, fantastic.
Absolutely. With Gord Miller, who's in Paris at the 2024 Paris Games, and I'm sure you're aware, Noah Lyles, who won the 100-meter, he finished bronze, 3rd in the 200-meter today, and the video is starting to circulate. I saw it. I only saw the race live. I didn't see the introductions, but everyone else was, at the line, basically in the blocks, waiting for him. He comes out. He's effectively doing like somersaults and cartwheels. He's got his arms up. He's yelling. He's playing to the crowd. You've been in the building to see, some of the greats run, and they're all showmen. But what do you make of Lyles and the way that he goes about
COVID
things?
After the race? Did I hear right that he tested positive for COVID after the race?
Yes, he's got COVID. He had COVID, and he still finished with a bronze.
That's pretty good. I mean, yeah. I guess. I mean, that's look, they are thoroughbreds. They are showmen. They are, you name it, divas. It's all part, and Lyles had said before the Olympics that he wanted to be greater than Bolt, and that's Bolt won the sprint double, the 100 and 200 3 times, and won the sprint triple when you throw in the relays 3 times. So he is, Bolt is the greatest of. He's the Muhammad Ali. He's the Babe Ruth. He's the whatever you want to call it of sprinting. He's unbelievable, and no one will ever. I don't think anyone will ever have his aura. Will have his stature where he was the most famous athlete in the world. He was. I would argue that Usain Bolt, circa 2012, was the most recognizable person on the face of the earth. That's how big he was.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And you look at his numbers. He's got the world record for the 100, the world record for the 200, and I don't see how it ever gets touched. Like we were talking to Donovan Bailey yesterday, and Donovan was talking about new technology with shoes and the way that they're building tracks now. I just don't know how anyone's ever going to run faster than 9.58, and I think it was 1919 or something running the 200 meter. I don't know how anyone's going to beat those world records. I think Bolt is just going to be in the record books, probably throughout our lifetime.
And the amazing thing is, if you had told scientists 25 years ago to build the perfect sprinter, he would look nothing like Usain Bolt. Seriously, he's 6'5". Sprinters aren't tall because it takes them longer to get out of the blocks, right? Like Andre DeGrasse is 5'9". Donovan's 6'1". He was considered to be abnormally tall. Bolt's got scoliosis. He's got curvature in his spine. He's got one leg is half an inch longer than the other. His left leg is half an inch longer than his right, which means his running stride is uneven. So what he has is incredible fast twitch muscles, incredibly long legs. So he's 6'5". The average person, their legs are 53% of their height, right? So Bolt is at 6'5" is 77 inches long. His legs are 43 inches long.
Ooh.
His thigh bone, his femur, is like, so he and Michael Jordan are the same height, and Jordan has a long thigh bone, but Bolt is like 2 inches longer than Jordan's. Like he's a complete physiological freak, but you shouldn't be able to run as fast as he did, given scoliosis, the uneven legs, all of it. He's got size 13 feet. Like, it's just unbelievable. But I saw the man run, and I can tell you, I've never seen, I mean, I'll tell you, I've seen Gretzky play hockey. I've seen Bolt run. I've seen Sinatra sing. Man, that's probably as good as it gets for me.
Pretty amazing. Gord Miller joined us here on the show. When you look at Canada's medal take, you know, they're on their way to potentially equaling their best, you know, ever. But it feels like Canadians are around the podium, whether it's, you know, top 10, top 5, if not on the podium. Like, am I wrong to suggest that we collectively Canadians are having an amazing Olympics, even with Russia not being there? I think we're around it all. It feels like every time we're fighting for a medal. Gord, does it feel like that on the ground there?
Yeah, and it does, and it's certainly, I think that the own the podium philosophy of pouring money into athletes and teams that have a chance to win medals. That all Olympic athletes, unfortunately, aren't created equal. So if you've got a chance to win, you're going to get more training and more support. That's certainly part of it. And, you know, it's funny, no one's talking about Russia here. No one's mentioning them not being here. It's not like it's a damper on it. I don't think anyone wanted them here, to be honest. I think what's exciting is how well the Canadians are doing in some non-traditional, you know, like we don't think of ourselves as being great at beach volleyball, but now, you know, I think about, you know, I bike by Ashbridges Bay all the time, right? I'll bet you there's lots of kids that watch that beach volleyball match today, and they want to go out and try beach volleyball on the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's the impact it has, right? That's DeGrasse talks about Donovan and Bolt being his idols, right? I mean, those role models get kids going in these sports and get them trying. I think that's fantastic.
It really is. Gord, what's your read on the closing ceremony and the flag bearer? Do you think it'll be Summer McIntosh? What are you hearing over there in terms of what could happen with Canadians?
I'd be shocked if it wasn't her. She's back home in Toronto right now. Penny Alexiak flew home after her swim in Rio because you have to leave the village, right? You can't stick around.
Right.
And so I would think it'd be Summer McIntosh. I think the big question is there's a lot of talk here. The athletic stadium was closed. There's not always a morning section in athletics. It was closed one morning. The word is that Tom Cruise might do some kind of stunt.
Oh.
Like an actual stunt. Because LA is hosting in 28, right? So there'll be a handoff from Paris to LA. There's talk that Tom Cruise is going to do some kind of stunt.
Wow. Like a Mission Impossible? Like, is he going to be Tom Cruise or in character?
Rappel down from the roof or skydive or, I don't know, do something.
Wow. So is he Ethan Hunt or is he Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
I think they're the same person, aren't they?
Well, yes, but one's a character. What I'm saying, like, I don't think
movies work. Hey, Ethan Hunt. I don't want to break this to you,
right?
But Ethan Hunt's not a real person.
No, I understand that.
Both of them have sick hair. They do have
great hair. They do have great hair.
Perfect hair.
But I don't think Tom Cruise, the real person, is scaling buildings in his free time. I guess is what I'm saying, Gord.
Well, no, but he does his own stunts, right? In the movie.
Yes, he does.
So I think he may be practicing some kind of giant stunt. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that'd be cool, man. You're right. It is kind of the baton gets passed, so to speak. And it's
like, LA is going to want to put on a show here, right? Like, LA is going to want to do it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be great, man. That's going to be rocking in 4 years. But we don't want to turn the page on Paris yet, man. The Canadians have been doing a great job, and a lot of medals are still coming in on a daily basis, and I think that's certainly going to continue. So enjoy yourself over there, Gord.
I'm going to be with you next Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm back from Paris on Monday. I'm going to join you on Tuesday.
Beautiful.
Jeez.
I'll be here. I'm looking forward to
hard.
it. Full breakdown.
We'll chat then.
Safe travels. Thank you, buddy.
See you, brother.
There's Gord Miller, live from Paris. And is Tom Cruise the guy you think of first when you think of L.A.? Like, when you think Hollywood, you think Tom Cruise?
Yeah, he's a pretty big star, right?
Yeah, he is.
On the male side, is The Rock? Is The Rock up there, too? I mean, what's he going to do? Lift the whole stadium up?
Yeah, what would The Rock's move be?
Body slam somebody?
Yeah, I guess body slam like Macron or something. He just picks up the president.
I don't know who's the biggest. Who's is it Brad Pitt? But what's Brad Pitt? I don't think he's doing a lot of. He looks great, but I don't think he's doing a lot of stunts out there in Ocean's 13.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be like a box office. Not that Pitt isn't. Like, I would think Leonardo DiCaprio maybe is at the top of that list in terms of Hollywood, in terms of being in the most movies, the best movies, getting just huge box office success. But if we're talking like a movie star and an action star,
sure,
it's got to be Tom Cruise. Yeah, I think it's got to be Tom Cruise.
Yeah, like he used to be Schwarzenegger, probably. He was before. So I think it's pretty cool. And I still am confused why Celine Dion sang there. Like, I don't get that.
I didn't
understand.
get that either. Like you're Canadian. Lady Gaga did too. She's American.
And I don't get that. Like, I would want to showcase our national talent, right? Like, I wouldn't want to be here. Then we have whoever, Snoop Dogg singing. Like, I love Snoop Dogg, but he's not Canadian. I think you give your local, your national artist a chance. I mean, she did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but I never understand it. Like, why? Why is she there?
Same reaction. I asked that on the air openly, wondering why is Celine Dion singing in France?
Yeah,
like obviously international superstar, like you said, brilliant artist, and we love her up here. But it's exactly what it would be. Snoop, opening ceremonies in Vancouver, and Snoop's up there. Like, why are we doing that? We can't get Canadian artists to do that. Come on.
If you're not well known, showcase what you have in your own country. That I think, like, when I think to all the opening ceremonies, it's always a reflection of their story, their national story, and I like that. I like learning about whatever country it's in. So I don't know. I'd love to know the thought process that went into that decision for both her and Lady Gaga. And they both did great. Like, don't get me wrong, just not from there. I don't get it.
I hear you. All right, Nabil Kareem, we're hoping to catch up with Nabil. He was in the building to see the U.S. beat Serbia earlier today. They got past Serbia 95-91. They were down big. They won the fourth quarter 32-15. So blew past them in the fourth quarter. And we'll get you an update on what's going on there on the men's basketball side. We're continuing to track what's going on at the Olympic Games, and the Blue Jays back in action tonight. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. hits in 19 straight games, going for 20 tonight. We'll tee that up. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus. All right, we'll get to our Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later this afternoon. Jays Orioles tonight. See Nick Foles retiring. Nick Foles, 11 seasons in the NFL, but the only one that matters is that one Super Bowl. He stepped in for Carson Wentz and brought them on that miracle run. And I think it's even more significant, Strud, based on who they beat in the Super Bowl, because they beat the Pats, right? They beat Brady and Belichick. Nick Foles beating Brady in a Super Bowl. Crazy. Crazy when you say that.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. When you look at it, the only other quarterback to really do that is going to be Hall of Fame worthy is Eli Manning. The New York Giants, right? Like, pretty elite company. That
Nick Foles, of course. Okay. Your boy, Eli. I got you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I remember watching that Super Bowl thinking, like, this is unlikely. But I like stories like that, right, where someone just kind of gets on a roll. And I'm pretty sure he never really kind of kept it up after that. So, whatever. I guess he had a moment in the sun. It's better than not having any.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like Carson Wentz did anything. Like, that was a pretty wild scene, right? Like, Wentz got hurt, and then he was a second overall pick for Philly, and he looked great. He was on pace for an MVP season that year. He gets hurt. They go to the Super Bowl. They win. First Super Bowl in franchise history. And now you look at it, like, Wentz is gone. Obviously, Foles is gone. And it's Jalen Hurts' team now. And even Doug Peterson, their head coach, he's out of there. Like, it happens quickly. That's a franchise that had never won a Super Bowl. They win one, and they're like, all right, what are we going to do with the quarterback? The coach is going to last a couple of years, and he's out of here. But it feels like Philly's been competitive for a long time, probably because of coaching quarterback. Like the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb duo was really successful for a long time. Obviously, Peterson had a pretty good run. Nick Sirianni, the first 2.5 years of his career there was unbelievable. But, yeah, shout out to Nick Foles. You got yourself a Super Bowl, and that's all that matters. All that matters. So more on that into the next hour. Nabil Kareem will join us from Paris as well. We're going to get to him in terms of what happened with USA storming back against Serbia in the fourth quarter today. Steph Curry, Joel Embiid had themselves a great end of the game anyway. And the Jays and Orioles in action tonight. Jackson Holliday going for 4 straight games with a home run. Youngest player in MLB history to do that, 3 straight games. Remember when they called him up earlier in the year, Strud? And, he's the number 1 prospect in baseball. He came up and he couldn't hit anything. Like I want to say he went like 1 for 40 or something to start his career. And they set him down, then eventually they called him back up. But when you're an uber talent and you have all that hype, it's going to work. It's just a matter of when, and now it's working for him. And kid's got home runs in 3 straight games, and he's 21 years old, I think it is.
I remember watching his first home run against the Jays, a grand slam.
Yeah.
I believe. And remember that? I think it was 2 walks, a hit by pitch, and then a grand slam. That was the sequence of events for the Blue Jays and the Orioles. But he's a talented young guy. He's not related to Doc Holliday at all. Is that?
No, it's the other Holliday. Matt Holliday is his dad.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
So Matt Holliday was, he was an all-star. He was an MLBer for a long, long time. Exactly.
Could hit the ball pretty well. So yeah,
could hit the ball pretty
genetics.
well. But he was, Jackson, first overall pick, and he's 20 actually. He's not even 21. He's 20, and he's a stud. And that's the thing again with the Blue Jays. Like you're looking at what they're trying to build and what they're doing. Like Jackson Holliday, he's just getting there. So now he adds his name to Henderson and all these other studs that they already have with Baltimore. Now you got Holliday. Like they're gonna have a 1 through 4 that's untouched. How are you gonna possibly keep up with them? Baltimore's stacked. So more on that as we lead up to Game 3 of that series tonight down at the Rogers Center. Final hour coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.